Am I the asshole for keeping all my roommates' belongings after they moved out, despite them wanting it back?
I, 21 female, used to live with 2 roommates, both 21 female, in an off-campus student housing apartment. We used to be friends prior to moving in, but ultimately we did not get along as they were disrespectful of my property and our shared space.
They both found housing for next year while I decided to stay in the same apartment unit.
The apartment staff clearly stated that they were required to clean every apartment before the next tenant arrived, thus everything had to be empty before leaving. However, since I renewed my lease, I could keep everything in my room, but I had to leave the living room and kitchen completely empty. The day before my roommates moved out, they asked me if they could keep some of their boxes with me, and I said, no.
I was going home for the summer that day and I thought I made it clear that they had to find other arrangements. I received an email a week ago stating I was fined $900 for failure to clean my space. I drove to my student housing apartment the same day to check on my apartment and speak to the housing staff. When I got to my apartment, I noticed several things still in my living room.
These were my roommates, like their TV, vacuum, water purifier, dish rack, rice cooker, toaster, rug, coach pillows, ottoman, boxes, etc.
I spoke to the apartment staff and explained none of these things were mine and instead were my roommates, thus I should have been fined.
However, they explained that my roommates were no longer on the lease as of late May, thus any belongings in there would be my responsibility. In the end, they basically said there was nothing they can do and I had to pay the fine, which was a lot of money, so my summer savings were basically gone in an instant. When I got home, I messaged my roommates and told them about the situation. They gave a half-ass apology and said they assumed it wouldn't be an issue since I had the lease and we all collectively used some of the stuff they left, thus was technically my responsibility too. I asked them to both pay me $450 each to cover the fine.
They said, no. To that I said, yeah, we all used those things. But now they're all mine. I had to pay the fine, I'm gonna keep everything you guys left. They began to freak out and spam messaged me about how I'm being an asshole for keeping their personal belongings. I ignored the messages.
After they got on social media and blasted me for being a thief.
I had many of their friends harass me.
Now they're getting their parents involved, but so am I. I know whatever they left was probably worth more than the fine, but I'm not going to pay for someone else's carelessness. They assumed they could just come over after the summer and retrieve their stuff while bypassing the need to buy a storage unit or find other arrangements to store their stuff.
Am I the asshole for keeping all my roommates' belongings after they moved out, despite them wanting it back? Not the asshole. I'm not going to pay for someone else's carelessness. Fucking A.
The apartment staff clearly stated that they were required to clean every apartment before the next tenant arrived, thus everything had to be empty before leaving. However, since I renewed my lease, I could keep everything in my room, but I had to leave the living room and kitchen completely empty.
I realize that this isn't what you're asking about, but this is fucking ridiculous.
One new tenant moves into a multiple bedroom apartment, and management makes everyone else who's staying clear out the entirety of their shared spaces? Not the asshole, and the next time you speak with them use the word lawyer.
They either pay the fine or you will sell their stuff to recoup your loss. I know you prob won't sell because you may need some of if not all that was left.
It's that simple. Do not get caught up in them trying to manipulate by deflecting to some bullshit that happened last month when you said, yada yada yada. None of that matters here.
Stand your ground.
They assumed they could just come over after the summer and retrieve their stuff while bypassing the need to buy a storage unit or find other arrangements to store their stuff.
When you make an assumption, I'm sure you know the rest.
Not the asshole, put them on blast. You both knew the requirements to have everything out of the apartment. You didn't. And because you didn't, there was a $900 fine levied against me for your abandoned property. If you want to reclaim the items, I am willing to sell them back to you, but as you abandoned them, and caused me to pay a fine due to your actions, you either pay me for the fine plus headache, or you accept you abandoned the items and they now belong to me. With the heartache caused, I would say minimum it should be 2x the fine to buy things back, and stick to your guns. It's all or nothing.
If you told them they could not store it there and they were no longer on the lease, I would consider it abandoned property. It is now yours to do with as you please. Not the asshole. Not the asshole.
Their things equals their fine. Your things equals your fine.
They made their choice.
They have to live with it.
If there is any further harassment, you might consider a more formal legal response with consequences. Info. This is the bit I don't get.
Less than, however, they explained that my roommates were no longer on the lease as of late May, thus any belongings in there would be my responsibility.
But there should be a converse of this. You are still on the lease, so why shouldn't you be allowed to keep your property in the apartment? I do understand that this stuff isn't necessarily yours, but the management company wouldn't know that. Am I the asshole for asking my brother's girlfriend to pay for her Happy Meal?
My brother, 35M, called me, 26F, at 6 a.m. this morning to babysit my niece so he could go donate plasma. I told him to wait until around 9-10 a.m. for my girls to wake up, then he could drop her off, with the understanding that it would only be for a few hours. He drops her off and doesn't give me a status update until after 7 p.m. to say, "There's a lot of people at the donation place we just left, and we're gonna go to get groceries, so can you watch her for a couple more hours?" I also had errands to run, so I took his daughter with us, and after, we planned to stop and buy something to eat for dinner. I asked him for $15 for the snacks and fast food I bought for her today. Mind you, this is the 100th time he has dropped his daughter off with me to babysit and doesn't respond for 10+ hours. So with no response from him, or his GF, I arrive at my mom's at 9 p.m. to drop my niece off to hand off babysitting so I can put my girls to sleep. When I arrive, my brother's baby mama is standing in the driveway and plucks my niece out of the car without her Happy Meal and drives away. This is the response from my brother after I asked him to pay for the money I spent on his daughter for the day. I'm sorry, but can I pay you tomorrow? I'm all out of money already. I'ma try and hustle some gift cards tonight and tomorrow for some money. The next is with his baby mama who left without her Happy Meal I bought for her daughter. Wow, really? I see that you're really upset about having to buy a meal for your niece, my daughter. Okay. Get it, it's all about the money. I got you. Don't worry, I will be giving you the money that you had to spend unwillingly on your niece. But just know that I am making it clear right now that niece will not be able to spend time with you or vice versa. Just to avoid any of this drama or wrongdoing towards my child. Is anyone else's siblings or family like this? Am I the asshole? I just don't know what to do. I think my brother is taking advantage of me. I have 4 girls of my own and I just feel like they don't care or mind that they don't respond when they are out of reach the entire day to coordinate pickup. Your brother is taking advantage of you. Next time he rings, and he will ring, tell him it's a hard no, not the asshole. 9 hours to donate blood, then 2 more hours to do grocery shopping, then he has no money until he can hustle some gift cards? Your brother and his girlfriend were not donating blood. The most likely option here is that they were doing drugs. Stop babysitting for them if his girlfriend is speaking to you this way. Not the asshole, but your brother and his girlfriend sure are. At the end of the day, while complaining about essentially you needing to just pay for things cause family is owed things just for being family, is the one who pretty much punished her daughter and deprived her of a meal she'd enjoy because of pettiness against you. That's her daughter and she'd rather take something from her daughter as a lesson to you. Not the asshole. But just know that I am making it clear right now that niece will not be able to spend time with you or vice versa. Just to avoid any of this drama or wrongdoing towards my child. So, where else will she drop off her daughter regularly for 10+ hours at short notice? She is cutting of her own nose to spite her face. So, your brother was selling his plasma, and the mother of their child had to go too. Keep a grown man company, and not stay home with her child? Or did she sell her plasma too? There is no way the blood bank was an all-day event. Even if the place was packed. It takes at the most, after the first visit, 1 hour to 1.5 hours. What do they do instead of working or looking for work? Drugs, drinking? Stealing gift cards? You may find yourself with custody of your niece one day. Who here believes for even 1 second he was actually donating plasma? Am I the asshole for upsetting my boyfriend's sister? My boyfriend has a sister, Shanna, who can't handle any bad news or people saying no because she has a learning disability. So Shanna gets everything she wants. I have 2 other friends whose birthday is close to mine and we are doing a yacht with a DJ. We all work in hospitality, so he was able to snag a good deal for a weekday party. I told his mother of the birthday plans after she asked and told me Shanna would have so much fun.
She went off to tell Shanna. Shanna was not invited. I don't want to have to worry about her at my party.
I don't want to babysit. I don't want my boyfriend to babysit.
I want to have fun.
I told my boyfriend to set this straight now. He said he would sort this out later, but I have played this game before with him, and Shanna ended up coming anyway because of his mom and her guilt him.
I got mad and told him loud enough for both his mom and Shanna to hear, saying Shanna isn't coming, and neither can you if you can't grow some balls. Shanna started crying and his mom yelled at me for upsetting her daughter. I told them, fuck this and this isn't going to be my life, and walked out his mom's house and ordered a Uber home. Last I heard I upset Shanna so much she had to go to the hospital with a panic attack and obviously we are no longer together. My mom said I should have been nicer to his sister since she has a disability, but I feel like he should have stepped up right then. Not the asshole. The mother was presumptuous. Told me Shanna would have so much fun. She went off to tell Shanna. And your boyfriend seems to have a history of letting you down. He said he would sort this out later, but I have played this game before with him, and Shanna ended up coming anyway because of his mom and her guilt him. I know that people will come after you for your choice of words, but you were frustrated and exasperated by their behavior. Not the asshole. Their mother was also playing games. Bullying people isn't the way to help her daughter socialize. It's good that you called your boyfriend on his weak behavior. I don't know his age, but clearly he hasn't learned to navigate this kind of issue. Hopefully, this experience will prepare him to better support his future wife. Could you have handled this better on paper? Sure. It would have been far better to have had this conversation quietly and discreetly, but A. that simply ignores the situation it took place in, which is one of being repeatedly let down by BF, and bullied by the mother, and B. assumes that the discreet, reasonable conversation would have worked, and given it hasn't before. It's deeply regrettable that the sister has had her feelings bent in this situation, but in the end, the situation has been brought about by a boyfriend who simply looks for the easy way out for him, and the mother making assumptions and refusing to grasp that other people's the OP's lives are not built around her daughter. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Since she has a disability. I have a learning disability, but you do not need to put up with me for the sake of being nice because I have a learning disability? I'm just a regular ass person. The only innocent party here is Shanna, who has been effectively spoiled above and beyond her disability and is unable to understand that she is spoiled. The mom for making invites without consent, boyfriend for being a wuss, and you for making your stand in front of Shanna. Not the asshole, and you were wise to walk away from this mess. Maybe it will be a wake-up call for them? Am I the asshole for telling my wife that it's time to put her grandmother in a nursing home? My 39F wife, 38F grandmother, 84F, has been living with us for the past year after her husband and caregiver passed away from a broken hip. Her grandfather never really made any arrangements for what would happen to his wife should he die before her. My wife is very close with her grandparents, and immediately following her grandfather's death, she offered to take care of her grandmother in our home so she wouldn't have to be put in a facility, as no one else in her family really had the space or money. I'm still kindly pissed that she did that without talking to me first, but at the time I knew how hard she was grieving her grandfather's death and I didn't want to start an argument or cause conflicts with any of her family members. I love my wife's grandmother, but she has been nothing but a burden to take care of the past year. She's severely diabetic and has to take 13 different medicines at different times of the day. She can only eat certain foods, which means me and my wife have to cook way more often. We have to constantly monitor her blood sugar. She can only walk very short distances with the use of a cane or walker, needs help dressing herself, bathing herself, going to the bathroom, climbing stairs, has doctor's appointments twice a week, etc. You get the picture, right? I know that I'm partially at fault for not saying anything and just going along with it, thinking that it wouldn't be forever, and my wife would eventually decide to send her to a facility. I'm a corporate lawyer, and I work remotely most days unless there's an important meeting or emergency that requires my presence at the office. That does mean that I'm at home most of the time to help out, but even though I'm remote, I'm still expected to be doing work during company hours. Me being constantly interrupted during the day has started to affect my work to the point that I find myself staying up later and later every night on my laptop playing catch-up. And to be completely honest,
Patience is something that I never had, especially when it comes to dealing with the infirm.
I just can't do it anymore, which is why, during breakfast this morning, I came clean to my wife and told her that I'm burnt out from being a caregiver. It's taking away from my career and our relationship, and it's time to consider other options for her grandmother.
I tried to explain that it's too much on us, and we have the money for a very nice facility that has the resources to care for her 24/7. She blew up and called me a heartless monster for wanting to put such a sweet woman that's done so much for her family, community, and church in a nursing home. She stormed out of the house, got in her car, and drove to her best friend's house. Later today, she came back home and is now barely speaking to me. I'm starting to feel that maybe I was wrong.
Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Indicate to your wife that you are not able to assist her with personally helping her grandmother. It is taxing on you mentally and physically and impacting your job. If she doesn't want to put her grandmother in a home, she has to figure it out. I understand there may be further consequences of this stance, but seems like your wife is unreasonably expecting you to shoulder a substantial burden of the work. Stand up for yourself. Not the asshole.
Not everyone is cut out to be a caregiver, and your wife's reaction to finally having a conversation around this is to run away from her beloved grandmother? She stormed out of the house, got in her car, and drove to her best friend's house.
I suggest that you look into working from the office full-time, and take decompression time out too. If your wife is her full-time carer, then you both don't need to be in the home.
Your wife is stressed and wanting to care for her grandma herself, but it is a huge task and professional carers can help even if they come in a couple of times a day for personal care.
Info: is your wife still working? Some states have funding for people to act as in-home caretakers for your relatives. Maybe this is something for her to look into since she dropped this care role on the two of you without consulting you. So if I'm understanding this correctly, your wife said, "We'll take care of grandma," and the we in that sentence was you, because your wife works outside of the home most of the time. That's completely unfair on her part. Does she want to quit working and stay home and take care of grandma while you're working from home? And the fact that she ran off to her girlfriend's house after the fight, did she take grandma with her? Or did she leave you once again to care for her elderly grandmother? I can understand desire to want to take care of your family member, but she's not doing that, you are. And that's unfair, not the asshole. Is this in the US? If so, look into Meals on Wheels for her food. Have either of you looked into what home care services your GIL is eligible for? You can have a home care provider come in all day every day and do all those services: medicine, dressing, bathing, toileting, cooking, cleaning, laundry, making her bed, all of it. What kind of income does GIL have? If she's at risk of being in a nursing home and has a low enough income, most Medicaid states will provide home care to keep her in the home. It doesn't have to be either, or. There's a middle way. So she abandoned said grandmother to throw a fit? She has never spoken to you and she is pissed you are upset. She made a decision on a single yes when having someone move in your home is a 2 yes situation. You can't set yourself on fire to keep grandma warm. Grandmother needs full-time care and should be in a home designed to help her. Not the asshole.